Every day, somewhere in America, more than 300 innocent men, women, and children become victims of medical malpractice at the hands of incompetent and negligent doctors. Last year, over 98,000 victims were killed by doctors. More than 4 million victims are permanently injured each year. Today, the Insider Exclusive will meet one of those innocent victims, Sharon Boxie, now a total quadriplegic caused by medical malpractice of her own doctors. We will also visit with her lawyer, John Hammonds, who for almost 30 years has been fighting for quality medical care for his clients and their families, as well as obtaining just compensation for those who have been seriously injured by incompetent and negligent doctors. John Hammonds is one of Louisiana's leading medical malpractice and nursing home negligence lawyers. He will show us how the state of Louisiana's medical malpractice laws are full of traps and how the healthcare and insurance industries are far more protected than anywhere else. In Sharon Boxie's case, you will see how her doctors malpositioned her head and neck during surgery that substantially reduced blood flow through the carotid arteries to her brain, causing massive brain damage, which went undetected during surgery and rendered her a total quadriplegic. Hi, I'm Steve Murphy, and this is the Insider Exclusive, live from Shreveport, Louisiana, at the law firm of Nelson and Hammonds. It gives me great pleasure to introduce John Hammonds. Welcome to the show, John.
Good to be here. Thank you.
You are probably the best known medical malpractice lawyer in the state of Louisiana for the plaintiffs, aren't you?
Well, I do a great deal of work, and I want to be a little, I'm a little reluctant to say the best known, but I do a great deal of work throughout the state and handle a large number of cases.
Well, for 30 years you've been doing that, haven't you?
That's correct.
And it's kind of like your work is almost a crusade, isn't it?
It is. It's no question. It's a particularized area of law that really needs special interest and focus in order to handle it properly.
And why is that?
Because it's complex, the law itself is complex, and because we're dealing with medicine, and to handle medical negligence cases fairly and professionally and effectively, we have to be able to have the resources and the understanding to combine both complex law and complex medicine.
Right. Today we're going to be talking about a particular case that you handled successfully, an unfortunate event which happened to one of your clients, Sharon Boxie. Tell us a little bit about that case.
Well, this case is a very tragic example of how truly bad things can happen and how an error in medical care, substandard care, can leave not just a patient but the entire family of that patient devastated for the remainder of their lives. Sharon was a 35-year-old single mother, very gainfully employed in the oil and gas industry, who was having neck and shoulder pain. Went to a neurosurgeon who recommended elective cervical, spine, or neck surgery.
What type of pain did she have in her neck?
Basically, the pain was a constant chronic nagging pain in her neck and upper shoulders, with some pain radiating into one of her arms. And the idea was that this was probably a disc-related injury, some type of pressure on one of the nerves coming off the cervical spine, and therefore she was to undergo cervical disc surgery, which was deemed to be certainly major surgery, but not a really dangerous surgery by any means.
Oftentimes when you hear the word elective, it's kind of like, well, you didn't really need it. She needed it, didn't she?
She needed the surgery, and elective means that there are alternatives, physical therapy, drugs, other things that can be used, but the recommended course of treatment was surgery. But still, it was elective in the sense that she wasn't going to die if she didn't have it.
Yes.
Although the outcome in many ways was worse than death
Yeah,
for her.
Explain what happened. I mean, this is not your real dangerous surgery. It was kind of typical, a normal procedure, right?
It was. It's a common procedure. It was done a little bit unusually in that the surgeon decided to do the surgery from a posterior approach, from the back of the neck, with the patient in a seated position.
Now, how is it usually done?
It can be done on a prone position where the patient is lying down with their head in a harness. This required the patient to sit up and to be placed in a harness where they lean forward with their head flexed downward.
Right, and they're anesthetized, aren't they?
Anesthesia, absolutely. This is a general anesthetic.
So what happened?
What happened was that when she was placed in the seating position, her head is positioned and then taped into place. And there is a very important safety factor, and that is the distance between the sternum or breastbone and the bottom of the chin. If the chin is pressed downward too far, then it can cause internal pressure on the carotid arteries, the arteries that provide the blood flow to the front of the brain, not to the brain stem, but to the front of the brain. And therefore it's important to make sure that the head is properly positioned to begin with, and secondly, that it does not move during the surgery itself. Unfortunately, the doctors didn't achieve what they should have done.
How did it come to pass that she contacted you?
Well, her family actually got in touch with an attorney in the town of Lake Charles, Louisiana, who does not do medical malpractice litigation, and he in turn referred the matter to me. I investigated the case and concluded that this was indeed a case of substandard care with a tragic outcome, and we undertook representation pursuant to Louisiana law.
We're going to meet her later on, but exactly what was the damage that she suffered?
The damage she suffered, and when you meet Sharon, you will see that she was left profoundly disabled. She is a complete quadriplegic. She is able to move only one finger ever so slightly, and one foot just slightly.
And that's it for the rest of her life.
And that's it. That's the best. Additionally, her damage actually also impairs her ability to speak.
Right.
So when you interview her, you will see that the amount of brain damage makes her difficult to understand. Although her cognitive functioning, her ability to think and understand and be completely aware of her surroundings remains intact.
Right. Part of this whole show is discussing the unfair and unjust laws that Louisiana has enacted since 1975 regarding cases like this and getting just compensation. And as you mentioned earlier, Sharon was gainfully employed.
She was indeed.
In many states in the country, if you're gainfully employed, you also suffer economic loss. In her case, she had, how old was she when this operation took place?
35.
She had maybe another 25, 30 years of working lifetime.
That's correct.
And under Louisiana state law, she's limited. What is the limit? General damages, which includes loss of economic damages, as loss of economic income, as well as pain and suffering. What is it limited to?
We have a cap that's unlike that of other states of $500,000, which means that both general damages, pain and suffering, disability, mental anguish, and so forth, and loss of wages and earning capacity are all capped at $500,000.
Right.
Now, the original law in 1975 actually capped all damages and also limited medical bills.
That's
so
crazy.
the original act
in 1975,
in 75, the $500,000 also included past and future medical bills.
How can, that is insane. How could it be that if their medical expenses are limited, what happens if they need more medical expenses? Then they go on the dole of the state.
That's correct.
And so the taxpayers end up paying for that.
That's correct. So we ended up from 1975 to 1985 with a system that basically was grossly inequitable because of not only the limitation on general damages and loss of income or wages, but also an artificial limit on the amount of recovery for necessary medical expenses that may be caused by the malpractice of a healthcare provider.
You're too kind in your choice of words. Artificial recovery. I like that. Artificial, because it's not real, is it?
No, it's not.
In her case, in all cases, medical malpractice cases in the state of Louisiana, you first have to go to a review board, right?
That's correct.
And that review board, what is it called? Louisiana Medical Review Board?
It's called the medical review panel process,
Okay.
or medical panel process.
And they determine whether a doctor is at fault or not, correct?
The panel has a twofold purpose. The first purpose is to determine whether the healthcare provider, who is a defendant in the claim, and it's not a lawsuit at that point in time. This is a pre-lawsuit screening process, whether the healthcare provider violated an applicable medical standard. And if he is found to have violated a standard, then they are to determine what damage or injury was caused by his substandard care.
And in Sharon's case, what did they find?
The panel unanimously found, as is most often the circumstance in Louisiana, that there was no substandard care and that her injuries were merely a recognized risk of the procedure.
So you went to trial.
We went to trial.
And the verdict that you got was what?
The ultimate verdict we got was $5 million judgment on her part, in her favor, that included $2.3 million for lost wages.
Yes.
So the present value of her future lost wages was $2.3 million. Our act, even though we received a $5 million verdict, because of the way our act is written, the judgment that she actually got was reduced to $500,000, plus a finding that she is a patient in need of future medical care, so that her medical bills, as they accrue in the future, are paid.
In some states where there are caps, you know, on general damages, pain and suffering, every once in a while they're up for challenge, aren't they? How has that fared in the state of Louisiana?
There have been a number of challenges over the last 34 years. All have failed. There is a pending, actually two pending cases right now that are at the appellate court level, in which the cap has been challenged again on various theories. But so far in 34 years, no one has come close to having a Supreme Court decision finding that the cap or the act was unconstitutional.
We are going to show right now a day in the life of Sharon Boxie and what these doctors did to her. And you're quite familiar with this video that we have on the screen right now. Tell us a little bit about her daily activities.
Well, her daily activities are markedly reduced. Her sister and her family have been incredibly supportive, caring for her and doing the physical therapy and the other steps that are necessary to keep her alive and functioning as well as she possibly could. But basically in the course of a day, because of her limitations, she can do virtually nothing other than watch TV, talk with people who come over, maybe read a little bit. But even read, I mean, she can't turn a page. She has no movement in her hands or arms or legs. So her day is very limited. She is cared for by other people.
So that even they have to move her head, the direction of her head.
That's correct.
Has she expressed herself to you after, you know, all of these horrible events?
She has. Sharon has been committed to letting her case be one that could be used to bring to light the kinds of injustice that our present system has for the most seriously injured people. She has a remarkably positive attitude. She has a deep faith in God, and she has put those things together to still be truly a blessing to those around her.
Well, we're fortunate enough here today to have Sharon with us and her sister, Sheila Brown, who cares for her 24/7, and her daughter, but we're going to bring on Sheila and Sharon right now. It gives me great pleasure to introduce Sharon Boxie and her sister, Sheila Brown. Welcome to the show, Sharon. Welcome to the show, Sheila.
Thank you.
You care for her 24/7 now, don't you?
Correct.
And that's a task in and of itself, isn't it?
It's a very hard task. Some days you don't want to get up, but you know you got to go.
John mentioned to me, Sharon, that one of the reasons that you have so much drive and fortitude is you want to show others that the laws in the state of Louisiana aren't the best laws in the world concerning medical malpractice cases, right?
That's correct.
You are an amazing example of a person who has a lot of fortitude, and you see this every day, don't you, Sheila?
That's correct. Sometimes I wonder how she does it, but she always got a smile on her face.
Yeah, that is amazing. Gives you inspiration, doesn't it?
Yeah, I'd be like, how'd she do it? And here I'm like, she said, you just got to have patience.
Yeah, it's been 9 years since the accident, right?
Yes.
She worked in the oil industry before?
She worked at W.R. Grace.
Okay, what did she do?
She was what was she, Miss Fox? I forgot. Operator.
She was an operator.
Yes.
Yeah. One of the tragic things about the Louisiana medical malpractice laws are they really don't take in proper consideration of your loss of income because you were 35 at the time of the...
Yeah, she was very...
35 at the time of the medical malpractice injury.
It was a struggle.
It was 9 years ago, correct?
Yeah.
We also have with us your daughter, who we're going to bring on later, Asia.
Yes.
By speaking out like this, this serves as kind of an example to everybody who's been severely injured at the hands of others that they should go on, correct?
Correct.
They serve as an inspiration.
She's my inspiration.
Is that right?
Correct.
Every day, you know, you got something new, huh?
That's correct.
There have been any complications as a result of, her injuries? Unexpected ones, have there been?
Well, yes. A lot of times you couldn't get the workers to work. There wasn't enough pay. They wouldn't show up because it was too much, her care was too much that they had to do a whole lot. So
you have people that help you.
At first I didn't. It was just me and my sister and my sister-in-law.
Yeah.
And then eventually she had to go see about her mother. So it was just me and my other sister, and then it wound up to be just me for a while, and then my job told me I had to make a choice. Whether it was going to be me working for them or putting her in a nursing home.
Yes.
So I told him, I said, well, you must not have a mother. Because if you did, you wouldn't put her in a nursing home, would you? And he told me, he said, well, you do what you got to do.
Mm-hmm.
So in order for me to keep my job, I had to put her in a nursing home. I didn't want to, and she begged me.
Mm-hmm.
But I told her it wouldn't be long until we got some help. And, but eventually I got out. We got out. I got on the waiver program. That took a while. Things don't happen like they think, Things happen to you. You have no help. I mean, you just got to do the best you can. And then in that same year, I'm sorry, we lost our father.
Yes.
In 2000. And we didn't tell her because the doctor thought it would set her back.
Mm-hmm.
She was going into rehab. She had just came out the coma, and they said they didn't think it was a good idea. So when we finally told her, it was just a lot. I mean, dealing with her, and she was mad at us because we didn't tell her.
Mm-hmm.
But it's very hard to, when you think you're going to have help, the doors close on you because there's not enough help out there.
So right now, you both live together.
Well, I moved her with our mother.
Okay.
Because she was living in her house, and we was going back and forth. So we just combined them to one home.
Good. Well, you know, you've been doing an outstanding job, you know, and God never gives you any burden that you can't handle if you really put your mind to it,
That's
right?
what they tell me.
You just got to keep repeating that.
And that's so true. You know, when my dad died, he saw her. He died of cancer. Not of cancer, but they found cancer, but he died of a stroke. And he had told the Lord to take him and let her survive. She was so young. But he answered our prayers. She came back to us.
Yeah. Well, my hat's off to you, doing a commendable job.
Thank you.
We have your daughter here, and we're going to, Asia, and we're going to bring her on right now. It gives me great pleasure to introduce Sharon's daughter, Asia. Welcome to the show.
Hello.
Boy, this happened to your mom when you were 9 years old, right? You're
Yes.
18 now.
Yes.
How did it affect you initially and through the years?
Well, it just it changed my life a lot. Although I used to being with my mom and going places and just seeing her active and
It's okay. What is your life today with your mom? I understand you live nearby her.
yes, I live 15 minutes away, and
Yeah.
I take care of her on the weekends at
Yeah.
night, and I see her a lot. And at first it was hard for me to accept what happened to her, but I it's still hard, but
It's amazing how your mom does it every day, isn't it?
and sometimes I feel bad. It's just
Yeah.
like some days I wonder, like maybe it's my fault. Just what
Yeah.
if this would have happened? And
As a
it's
result,
just very different.
yeah, as a result of her injuries, you have now struck on a career path of becoming a nurse, right?
Yes, sir.
Are you going to school right now for that, or what?
Yes,
Really?
I'm attending McNeese right now, and then I'll be going for nurse anesthetist.
Is there anything else you want to give to our audience or say to our audience about people who go through, how do you get through things like this?
Well, first off, you have to believe in God. That's the first thing, and be strong. And don't just listen to the first thing the doctors tell you. Make sure, really ask questions. Don't just let them tell you something just because they're a doctor. That they don't know everything.
It's true.
You just have to really ask all the questions that you can ask.
Sharon, have these doctors, the ones who committed medical malpractice, have they ever apologized to you?
Yeah, one of them.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, I admire your spirit, and you're an inspiration to me and to everybody who's watching this show. And thank you very much, both of you, for being with us today. I want to welcome back to the show John. John, Sharon's story is inspiring. How unfortunate it is. You did a fabulous job. There's something that you mentioned to me during the break, and how you view your profession.
I see myself in the role that I play as certainly not a job, and much more than a profession. It really is a ministry. I truly believe that I'm doing what God called me to do, and it's an opportunity to serve not only individual clients, but also serve the community as well. And that's the way I try to handle things when I do this work.
You had mentioned earlier there's a lot of traps in the Louisiana medical malpractice laws. What are some of the most prominent ones that come to your mind?
Well, we have a confusing set of time frames contained. It's a complex act. The original act had different requirements at 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, 180 days, and a year.
That you had to report things.
That you had to do different things. And
Yeah.
if you miss those,
You're out of
then
luck.
you're out of luck. We were able to clean some of that up and to deal with that somewhat, but we still have the reality that medical malpractice litigation, unlike any other area, is based primarily upon evidence that's produced by the defendant, interpreted by the defendant, and kept in the custody of the defendant. Patients never get to put anything in the medical records. Therefore, the only thing that's in the medical records is what the healthcare industry wants in them.
Right.
And oftentimes, the real trap for the unwary practitioner, the inexperienced lawyer, is being unable to read between the lines and have the resources in the terms of either his own medical understanding or physicians to help him to be able to ferret out what the truth really was with regard to a tragic event.
There are a lot of myths, and lies, myths, that are promoted by the insurance industry, by their lobbyists, by the U.S. Chamber of Commerce.
Absolutely.
Regarding medical malpractice lawsuits. Tell us a little bit about what some of them are and why they aren't true.
Well, the biggest myth is the idea of defensive medicine and the cost of medical malpractice litigation on the delivery of health services. There's a belief that malpractice cases cause medical costs to go up, and that's simply not borne out by any of the studies done. Most of the studies actually will establish that the entire cost of our medical malpractice system only increases the delivery of health care by less than 1%. So putting caps, putting artificial barriers on fair recovery is really not a justifiable basis, not justifiable from that standpoint.
You brought up an interesting story that 9 years after Sharon was injured, she decided that she wanted to come back to your office and do what?
She called just 3 or 4 weeks ago
Yeah.
and wanted to come visit me. She actually lives in Lake Charles, which is 3.5 hours away. And knowing her disability, I couldn't imagine requiring her to drive up here. So I offered to visit her and to go to Lake Charles. And she said no, she wanted to come. Didn't tell me why, but she and her sister came. And she wanted to come to personally thank each of my staff members for what they had done for her during the course of this litigation. And it was a very touching and a very important moment, and it says tons about her character and her courage.
It says tons about you and your character and your dedication to your profession.
Well, thank you.
Thank you for joining us. You can get more information about our guest and the issues at insiderexclusive.tv. Thank you.